This week we're looking at 1 Samuel chapter 8 as we start our week off with our Wonderful Day in the Lord podcast. And we're looking at Samuel, and we fast forward in Samuel's life in verse 1 to when he's old. It doesn't say exactly how old he is, and he's going to have some more ministry in front of him yet, including appointing 2 kings. But he is getting advanced in years, and the people recognize that. They recognize that he is older, and his sons, verse 3, sadly are not walking in the ways of the Lord. They have followed more like the sons of Eli. Verse 3, they take bribes, they pervert justice. So here is a godly man. There's no question that Samuel's a godly man, and we can't guess as to why his sons turn out so poorly. I think to read into that is too much. But for whatever reason, neither boy walks with the Lord. So the people recognize that. What are they going to do when Samuel, who's old, is gone? There's no other prophet on the horizon like him. And so in their way of thinking, what they want is a king. And this is a turning point in the life of Israel. So in verse 5, it says, "Now appoint a king for us to judge us like all the nations." Now the Lord knew this was coming. Matter of fact, in Deuteronomy chapter 17, verses 14 to 20, the Lord said a day would come in which they would want a king. And even there, he told them what to expect and what it would cost them and what the king should do. A lot of information there. But now they're at that point, many years later, and they're ready for a king. And they want a king, sadly, and this is indicative of where they really are. They want a king because they want to be like the other nations. That's repeated down in verse 19. When Samuel tries to talk them out of it, they say, no, there will be a king over us. And in verse 20, that we also may be like all the nations. So they want to be like the other nations. Sadly, Israel had been chosen as a very unique people, a very unique nation. It was a theocracy. God was their king. And they were not to be like the other nations. They were to be very different. Matter of fact, the difference about them, the difference is there in the way they lived, or supposed to live anyway, their rituals, their God, their tabernacle, their ark, all these things was to draw people to the Lord as a witness. They were to be a witness to the world. But they weren't doing a very good job most of the time. And now they've come to the place, even when they seem to be doing pretty well during the time of Samuel, they've come to a place where they want to be like everybody else. And that is a turning point, I think, in their life. Well, Samuel wasn't happy. It says in verse 6, he doesn't like this. He knows this is the wrong direction. But the Lord tells him they've not rejected you, verse 7. They've rejected me from being king over them. Now, again, you have to remember, this is a theocracy. God is the king of Israel. He's always been the king of Israel. They've had no kings. They've had leaders like Moses and Joshua. They've had judges for hundreds of years. They've had a prophet like Samuel, but they've never had a king. And the Lord said, and they're going to now, probably not in their own way of thinking, not probably consciously saying we don't want God to be our king, but the Lord is recognizing what is happening. They have chosen a man over him. And he tells Samuel that so that Samuel would do what they are bidding him to do, and they've rejected him. And it says that they have forsaken me and served other gods, so they're doing to you also. So accompanied with this is the worship of other gods as well. So it's a bad time for them. Well, Samuel goes back to, I think he's still trying to talk them out of it, starting in verse 10 and going on down. He tells them what will happen to them if they get a king, that he'll take their sons, he'll take their daughters, he'll take their lands, he will force them into war, he'll take their best fields and vineyards, he will take, verse 15, a tenth of their seeds, all sorts of things. It's going to be a big price to pay to have a king. So he wants them to know that up front. He's challenging them. This is not a good choice. The Lord doesn't do these things to you, but that's what happened if you take a king. But verse 19, nevertheless, the people refused to listen to the voice of Samuel, and they said, no, but there shall be a king over us, so that we may be like all the nations. They refused to listen to the logic of Samuel, and so they say, no, we will have a king. And Samuel, as God has directed him, will appoint a king for them. That's what we find in chapter 9 beginning there in chapter 9 tomorrow.